To round up, a few more things from the last few days. If you recall, all power being contested, the loyal opposition always being not only present but being an intricate part of all power structures. Then I was going to give you a little news scoop that in regard to such matters as that, there is behind all scenes, the PP, the Prophet Party. The Prophet Party is the power. And the Prophet Party does not care what apparent, what visible partisans get elected. It doesn't matter who wins in the world, because the Prophet Party always wins. Now, if you insist, for the sake of childish picturizations, that there's still an out there, then out there. Do any of you know, without being in any way captive of your good old-time city consciousness, believing that there is something afoot that you could do anything about, or that there's something afoot that humans concocted? But if you can get past that, then I will point out to you that, to use, let's say, our country, our part of life's body as an example, the Prophet Party does not care if the Republicans or Democrats win. And it seems to be quite passionate and quite real struggle going on. And if any of you can see that, then I can point out to you that's going on in other parts of the world. It doesn't matter whether the Christian Democrats or the Labour Party wins in England. There is behind all scenes the Prophet Party. Now, I just made that name up, but I know what I mean. The Prophet Party is always there. The Prophet Party cannot be contested because the Democrats and Republicans and the Labour Party and the Christian Democrats cannot see the Prophet Party. Oh, all right, for an aside, just the way things happen in life, just in ordinary life, is periodically, every now and then, to be real technical, somebody gets sort of this glimpse. Like sometimes you believe that maybe that last fry is going to come back up on you, and they get just a glimpse, but then you go, and you get it back down, and you forget about it. And that's the way it operates. That just every now and then somebody who is out there making a great speech or goes off the stage and they're attempting to dicker with somebody about swap me your vote for this and help me get into power, and they're wheeling and dealing, and just every now and then, like that, it's about to come back up on me, they just have this feeling, it distracts them, that we're all dressed up and we're playing on a stage. I'm still back in kindergarten, and I just can't tell where the teacher is anymore. Used to, she'd stand out there with her hair in a bun, and she'd be the one saying, all right, you children, you do this and you do that, and speak up, and you sit down and go over there. And I know she's still here somewhere. It distracts these people. People who apparently are or some of the leading figures of their state, their tribe. And just every now and then they just have this little glimpse like they're about to go, make a rude noise. That is, they're going to be a rude thought like, I ain't in charge. Somebody's letting me play like I'm in charge. I ain't in charge. And then so I'm getting in charge and realize that I ain't in charge. Not really. Because I don't mean that there's any more awareness at their level than there is at your level. That is, using you as archetypical of city people, because people in the city believe they're in charge. The Prophet Party does not care who wins, because the Prophet Party always wins. Now, does that sound a whole lot to anybody, a whole lot like life? Does it even sound a wee bit like perhaps an intelligent revolutionist? Does anybody see that this has any connection to where I said I was starting tonight to wrap it into some of the previous aspects? All right. Some of you believe that you were listening and hearing something night before last, and me pointing out about uncontested power is an impossibility. It is a portent of death, if anything. And so anytime you have power, and not just, of course, out there, but in here, that there seems to be in humans a guiding power that does not seem to be extant in worms, in trees, in uranium, in dogs. That man seems to have some seed of power, that there seems to be this thing, at least this thing says so, in trees and uranium and ammonia and bleach, does not, that this thing says, I do have some power. I can think, I can sit down, I can stand up, I can make that gesture, or I can make that gesture. That man seems to have that, so there seems to be some power, and I also point out there is no such thing as uncontested power. And so everyone feels as though there is a struggle going on in them. And those who are really turned inside out believe that they are inside of a struggle. There is, though, within this uncontested power dynamics, the fact that there is behind all scenes. Remember, I started out, I didn't say behind political scenes. I didn't say behind some scenes. Behind all scenes, there is a hidden power, a hidden party, and that is the Prophet Party. They just don't have a name. They don't run for office because they don't need to. Whoever's in office, they're controlling. Does that strike a note anywhere in you that there is apparently inside of you a continual process, if it does not seem to be resembling a free voting democracy of some kind, there is in you a struggle for control. But that is child's play. That is a kind of psychological trompe l'oeil. It is an illusion. At the city, that's the only illusion they got. And so, if that's the only thing playing, people turn on the channel. But that's the only thing they can see. There is behind all scenes the Prophet Party. The Prophet Party does not care. Would you repeat that? The Prophet Party does not care who wins. They've got all parties' peckers in their pocket, as one of our local politicians used to say. So it does not matter who wins. The Prophet Party always wins. If it sounds a lot like life, then I point out life does not care on this planet who seems to be in charge. Life does not care who seems to be up today and down tomorrow, because no matter who apparently is winning today, life always wins. Always. Now, I said, does that sound a little bit like it might be, or might have some connection to an intelligent revolutionist? Well, where's all your damn chuckles? Everybody's chugging along here, and now I got to this, and it's silent. Of course, it is not. I am not inferring in any way to the three-dimensional level to say that someone who had some form of new intelligence doesn't care blank, or doesn't care about anything, or doesn't care who seems to be in control. It is not that. That's the 3D level. But if it was more complex, can you see the possibility that if you were more in touch, if you just had an awareness that the Prophet Party is actually in control continually of what seems to be the struggles in you, forget now out in the world of politics, but in you, it seems like some days I'm pretty good, some days I'm bad, or sometimes I seem to have whole episodic periods, months, perhaps I seem to be going down one track, and then my bad side takes over. My evil, invisible twin brother takes me over, and I can do this. What if you got in touch with, what if you were just aware of that there is a Prophet Party going on, and it's winning? It always wins. No matter if you're apparently today a Christian Democrat, and tomorrow a Reformed Buddhist, that tomorrow you're the Labor Party, or tomorrow you're the loyal opposition. In the city, it's important. In the city, what is one of the most passionately played and talked about games and hobbies? It's politics, always has been. I don't know whether it's running a close first or second to religion, but it's very passionate. What if you understood that there is a passion behind that is a cold passion, that is a deadly passion, that is a winning passion, because it is the Prophet Party. And it doesn't matter who goes up, who goes down. The Greeks are on top, then the Romans take over. Then they fall. Then the Huns run rampant for a while, and then the Turks take over. You think the Prophet Party cares? The Prophet Party always makes a profit. It always does. Those who know what they're doing, it doesn't matter whether gold goes up or goes down. It doesn't matter whether dollars outselling yen or yen's outselling dollars or dollars are falling behind Deutschmarks. The Prophet Party always makes a profit. Why in the hell do you think they're named the Prophet Party? Are they idiots? No. Not people that make that kind of profit. They are not idiots. They did not learn how to make profit by being idiots. And so why would they call themselves the Prophet Party? Yeah, but you said you made it up. Why would I make it up if I didn't understand it? The Prophet Party would not be the Prophet Party unless they made a profit. All the time. There's no such thing at that level as, you remember what SS is, some success. There's no such thing as SP, some profit. Some profit is no profit. Now at the 3D level, if you were a person of very limited little Pingita intelligence, you might think that, well, some profit's profit, you make a little profit, some profit's no profit. You're still locked into that great world of dualities. Some profit means that you're going to make some loss. Some profit is no profit because it's going to be reversed. Some profit is just moving money around the table. You won this hand, hey, some profit. Before the night's over, going to deal a few more hands, you're going to lose it. The profit party never loses. Never. It does not matter who wins. Remember, I put no conditions on my description. I said behind all scenes, not some scenes. And I said they always win. I didn't say sometimes win. They always win, no matter who apparently wins that people can see in the city, no matter who you think is in power, no matter who you think the opposition is, no matter if you think that the opposition has taken over, that the power has shifted hands. No such thing. The profit party is always there making a profit. Always. Sometimes a change of power, apparently at the 3D level, ensures profit, and then sometimes it doesn't. And when it doesn't, believe it or not, there's some way the elections get fixed. There's some ways, believe this or not. You won't find this in the dictionary. A coup can be rigged. A coup can be unrigged. The profit party does not allow things to happen that would take away their what? Profit. They always win. Speaking of news flashes, since I considered the revelation of the profit party, you shouldn't go around talking about that either. Because if they heard that you were out talking about it, it's bad enough if they knew some people knew about it. But if they heard that somebody was out talking about it, just somebody like you, you could suffer a real loss. So I wouldn't be talking about it. But as far as news flashes, I've had another one I've been wanting to ask. And so I'll segue from news flash into something about the news. I was going to use that as a parabolic springboard. Let me ask you this. Which would be the most useful / dangerous as far as news, the intake of info? Which would be the most dangerous? Now listen, because this is the way things are even set up apparently out there. Which would be the most useful / dangerous? Local coverage of international events or vice versa? Well, we got some laughs here. At other times and other places on the tape, I'm not so sure. So I'll say one or two little words. Circa 1988, news is such a hot hobby now. News is such a commercial item. You have the news expanding on local, throughout the country, if not the world, local TV outlets, that more and more local outlets for the news, local coverage, has become such a moneymaker that they now are in sometimes competition with the larger, erstwhile known as network news organizations, that now you have Cincinnati, St. Louis, San Diego, giving the appearance at least, making some small attempt to present international news via their own local coverage, through their own facilities, whatever they may be. Then you have what would appear to be the vice versa, the great international news organizations, the UPS, the Reuters, and UPI, whoever's left in business. These large organizations that are either national or international, then attempting to get even, so to speak, by giving the semblance of some kind of local coverage from their perspective, using whatever facilities they have at hand. Is that enough? Do you know what I'm talking about? Apparently out there for the springboard. Let me point out to you that ordinary consciousness, ordinary intelligence, takes in all the news, that is, all the information. It takes it in as though it was local, and you could read personal, individual, that it is local coverage of international events. Because everything that's happening is international events, so you got to snap out of that now to follow this. We're in a hurry tonight. Everything that's happening is an international event, or else it's of no consequence. In fact, it's an international event, or you're not even looking at it correctly. So at the ordinary level, everyone is taking in this info. Now, you people do know I'm driving fast, and we're not just talking about news. And we're not talking about out there. But if that's the best you can do, that's what we're talking about. The news is coming in. All the information is coming into someone. But it's coming in on the basis that their intelligence, their processing, becomes a local version of the international events. Do you know in what this results? Or do you know what this results in? For those of you that like it simple. If not idiomatic. What this results in is the coverage of everything, all the information that you take in. You're processing it as though you're your own news organization. That is what intelligence, that is what the yellow circuits are doing. But what this results in, that all international events, which is everything of any importance, remember that, anything that's significant is an international event. But it ends up in a form of local coverage. You. And what this results in is several things. One is your slant on the news is always provincial. Provincial being, I don't have a dictionary and I don't carry it in my head all the time. Provincial, one's interest is limited to one's own province, of course, was the basis of it. That is, the only thing that's of interest to you is what's happening in your own backyard. That's provincial. So all the news going through ordinary intelligence, no matter what it is. Do I have to give an example? All right. Two guys staying at a bar, and one says, do you realize that there are reports now that the Russians are not actually pulling out of Afghanistan? Can you believe that kind of thing is still happening on a national level? And this other guy says, I'd like to discuss national politics. In fact, I'll tell you how I feel about it. You didn't get it? Don't you remember the example several weeks ago? Don't you just love dogs? Oh yeah, I love dogs. You want to discuss dogs? Let me tell you how much I love dogs. All right, the second guy says, I never did trust the Russians. That's his reporting of the news. That's his local coverage of this international event, and I'll remind you again, we are speaking in, or I am, in metonymies, although the Russians are apparently, here in November of 1988, pulling out of Afghanistan, in whence they have been, by some reports, engaged in an unwelcome intrusion into their humble affairs. But here they are going out, and their reports, in fact, coming in, I didn't make this up, that says they're not really going out as fast as they said they were going out, or as fast as they say they're going out now. And so the two guys are staying there, and one guy apparently wants to discuss the complex nature of this international event, the kinds of tensions, the balances of power that this super large country, this tribe known as the USSR, now says they're pulling out and going to leave these little peaceful Muslims alone, and maybe they're not actually doing it. Another guy, like, yeah. And here comes his response. Here comes his local coverage of the international events. He says, I never did trust them Ruskies. That's his local coverage, which is all right. We're not talking about world politics. I'm not talking about that it matters at all what happens. The profit party is making a profit. The Russian can stay, they can go. The Afghans can apparently take back over, or they can apparently live under the Russian control. It doesn't matter. The profit party is making a profit, which is the only thing that should interest you, now that you know about it. Because if I didn't make it clear enough, if they began to lose money, I was going to tell you a guy out of town, but there ain't nowhere to go. So it is local coverage. It is always provincial. It results in something else. It is always chauvinistic. Does everybody remember what that is? From General, what was his name? That French? Any right. A chauvinist, or chauvinism, is excessive devotion, fanaticism to one idea, or to a cause. It's being a fanatic to a cause of some kind. And what is your cause when it's local reporting? The cause is to make everything fit in to a local view, to make it palatable. Now here you are running a station. You live in Snellville, Georgia, or Hair Nose, New York. And so the people there, how many people are you going to find living in these little burgs with their provincial attitudes that you're going to get them interested in the complex balance and tensions of power plays on the other side of the world in Afghanistan, having to do with not only Afghanistan and Russia, but then the fallout into Pakistan, trickling over into India, all the tensions there. How are you going to get these people interested? You have to, in some way, appeal to their provincialism, then their chauvinism, that there is a cause. The cause is, let's see, what is it from our view? Oh yeah, freedom. Freedom. So you have to tell the people in Nose Hair, New York, that there is a local importance to the news in Russia and Afghanistan. Don't turn off our news, don't throw down our paper yet, because remember this, if we don't fight for freedom there in Afghanistan, the next thing you know, the Russians will be in New Hampshire and then coming down through Connecticut, and then we'll all be done for. There is a cause for which you should be interested in the news, you people here in Snellville, Georgia. And that is freedom, a cause. And so you might get somebody here and there. Somebody that doesn't even know, they couldn't begin to identify Afghanistan. They've heard the term, they've heard the name, they figure it may be a country or some kind of island somewhere. And you stop them and say, I'm a reporter here from the Snellville News, and we'd like to take down your opinion. Do you think that the ordinary citizen should be concerned about what's going on in Afghanistan? And the guy says, yes, I do. And he says, well, why? And he says, well, because we're all fighting for freedom. We got to make the world free. All right, there's the chauvinistic opinion. Now, I'm not commenting on freedom one way or the other, apparent freedom. I'm simply pointing out, to get anyone's interest, there has to be the local slant on the news. That person's intelligence has to take it on the basis of translating what seems to be the incoming info, and it's always going to come out provincial, or he's not going to take any notice of it. That his interest does not exceed outside his own backyard. And I'm getting to that in a minute. You know what his own backyard is, don't you? Your own backyard, your own brain, your own body. And, how's it going to affect me? What do you think about the Russians trampling freedom all over the world? Well, I probably don't like it. And he turns to his wife and said, is it going to affect me? Will we lose the house, hon? Or, will my mortgage payments go up? Will my salary be cut? Yes, I'm against it. It has to be some apparent slant on the news to where it appeals to and fits the needs for provincialism, and then chauvinism, that there has to be some kind of cause. Then in an individual's case, the cause is, how does it profit me? Does it affect me at all? If not, to hell with it. I could wrap it up and say, at least as far as I'm going tonight, that the news, the local coverage of international events, has to come down to the fact that all the news ends up being I-centered, as always. That there is too much defense of the crown and too little loyal opposition going on inside of you. The information comes in, and it is local reporting on international events. Now you understand, surely, that again I am using verbal allusions. When I say international events, I'm saying something that seems to be taking place outside your boundaries. You being a state, so the boundaries are anything apparently going on out there is an international fucking event. But what does ordinary intelligence do with it? It's like some little nerd, barely out of high school, took a half year of journalism in the Hair Nose, New York, or the Nose Hair, New York. I always get that city confused. Well, anyway, something happened to me there one night. I guess I got traumatized. But they got this one little guy, and they appoint him. They get him cheap, or he's the editor's, the publisher. I shouldn't say editor of that kind of organization, but the publisher, the guy that owns the place. It may be one of his nephews. They appoint him, 18 years old, in a bow tie and 20 pencils. They say, and he'll work for free, or $12 a week. They appoint him what? International correspondent for Nose Hair, New York, the Nose Hair Gazette. All right, so you understand. I'm not, pushing it far enough to be silly. How he's going to report on things. All he can do is go downtown and buy a New York Times. They don't even have a news machine there at the place, and he reads the New York Times, and then he tries to translate the stories for the week with some local slant. Why the people in nose hair in New York should be interested in what's going on in Afghanistan. It has to be a chauvinistic approach. It has to be provincial. It has to be I-centered. The individual. Anything that's an international event is something apparently taking place outside of you. That is, nose hair in New York. But for you to be interested in it, if you're operating at the ordinary level of intelligence, for you to be interested in it, you've got to be what? You've got to be interested in it, right? That's obvious. And if you're ordinarily intelligent, if that's all you got, what does it take for you to be interested in anything? Well, it's got to meet the criteria. I have very strict criteria. It has to be provincial, and it has to be appeal to my chauvinism. Now, if it does that, I want to hear about it, because that's important stuff. That is probably good, hard, fresh, useful data. So what do people learn in the city? Nothing. I hate to give credit even as far back, or of course to anybody, because they don't deserve it. But back as far as good old Plato and some of those Greeks, that the idea was they could almost prove it. Well, in fact, if you play around with verbal logic, if you're by that kind of hobby, they could prove it. That you can't learn anything. Because if you're ignorant to start with, you got no basis to learn anything, and so people don't really learn anything. And they finally, a bunch of them stumbled around there just before the great civilization of Greece kind of went and laid down. Just before that, they finally came up with a sort of an idea that, all right, everybody knows everything, but they don't know that they know it. You already know everything you're ever going to know, and you don't know that you know it, and something has to trigger it. And then most of them died, and as I said, the civilization kind of went on recess, and so they didn't have to go any further to prove that. But there's been this idea around that you can't really learn anything. I'm just trying to show you that there are reasons why. Good, hard, journalistic reasons. As I was going to do in that paragraph, I wanted you to try and see also that being at the ordinary level that you are taking all international events, that is, all information that apparently happens outside your stomach and your brain, that's an international event, but the only way it comes in is through local coverage. That you have got to have this little nerd, the nephew, with no talent, no ability, no training. He is the international editor for your desk, for your paper. And that's what comes in. But if you do that, what you've got is a continuing, an off-balance, as far as doing this now, an off-balance, overbearing defense of the throne. That is the status quo, whoever's in power. Even if it's just in power for the next 5 minutes, 5 seconds. You have got an unwieldy, an overbearing defense of the throne, the crown, and you've got too little loyal opposition. That it is too likely that your power structure is going to continue. And by taking in international events through local coverage, it just helps assure that. Because that's one of the reasons you have local coverage of international events, is to give it the local slant. And the local slant is always in the hands of who? Whoever's apparently in power. Whoever owns the paper, they decide what the paper prints. If it was not a place that had a free press, then the government. Whoever's on the throne. Whoever's got the biggest gun tells the paper what to print. Whatever the paper prints is what you take in. Now forget all that, your own intelligence. Whatever the power is, if it does not have an active loyal opposition, if you are too entrenched in what seems to be you, then your coverage forever will be I-centered. It will forever be provincial. The slant on anything you hear, even if it sounds to be, wait a minute, that's something new, I'd like to investigate that. If you investigate a few more minutes, if it holds your attention, you begin to do local reporting of it. It is local coverage of international events. That's the nature of man in the city. There is too little loyal opposition. There is too little of the pushing of the frontiers of the reporters, of the paper, of you. How much time we got? How much time is that before I told you to tell me? All right. Total. Uh-oh. 20. Okay, here we go. All right. I want to pick up another piece. In fact, you recall I was mentioning that great American, if not Southwestern philosopher, J.J. and the great idea of come on, take another little piece of my heart, and I said, you know, the real philosophical exegesis of this would be, come on, take another little piece of my memory, a piece of my past. Has anybody got a piece of Scotch tape? Well, I was going to fix up a movable thing, but never mind. Never mind. We're running too quick. I was going to make a movable thing right quick, but we can do this. Good old human nervous system. Level of ordinary consciousness. And now let's consider that that level is tied to the past. There is everyone's past. And here we're trying to go up in another direction, remember, of intelligence and trying to expand this out and move it out. What I was mentioning night before last that I wanted to try and clarify a little bit is there's a way in which you can see that as new intelligence, whatever it is I mean by that, that as this kind of new intelligence increases, your memory decreases. Now I was going to try to draw up right quick. I was going to make something here that I could slide, that as this goes up and expands, then if your memory went back to whatever, 1962, let's say that's where this is, and this starts expanding out, this starts moving up, then this gets cut. And just for instance, I'm just making up these numbers, and it jumps to 1968. It gets cut off there. Do you follow me? That it is, I was going to try and make a little slidable thing so that when I slid this, and that went up, then this would shorten. And if this goes up even higher, then it gets down to, let's say, 1972. That your ordinary memory of your past, as far as it apparently having any immediacy, of it having any real efficacy with how you operate, it starts getting shorter and shorter right behind you. Really, I know this is weird, but I brought it up the other night, so I might as well press on. And it's not something you try to do. It's just you begin to realize it, and then some of the, or not some of, the many nights that I have brought up, pointed out, made fun of, kicked, cursed, made obscene gestures toward people's ordinary past and told you it doesn't matter. I don't care if you were born in a gutter. I don't care if you were born in the bulrushes. I don't care if you were born without a mother and father. Or maybe just cheap ones. I don't know. It doesn't matter. Not if you belong here. I know it matters to you, because if it matters to you, of course, you don't belong here and you shouldn't be listening to this. But if you end up here, it doesn't matter. All the terrible things that happen, of course, forget all the good things if anything good ever did happen to you. Good luck, but that it doesn't matter. But then you begin to see that it wasn't me just preaching or trying to convince you, not trying to talk you into, I know everybody's had it bad, but, forget about it. You literally, as far as it being an operational piece of your intelligence, you literally begin to drop it, like shedding a piece of your tail if you were a lizard. Now, it's still there. I grant you that. You do not go nuts. And as I mentioned, it's like everything's happened to you, which is a whole other story, the difference between memory and the past. But your memory to you is the past, but you can liken it unto a room. And it's like that the room keeps getting smaller, or there's a hallway and the doors keep closing off, and you have to go back further to go back to ordinary memory. But you have to go in there all the time. The obvious one being, if you had to try and remember something that you wanted to say to somebody about something you used to know, or you're trying to place a face of somebody you met, and it's like you have to go back in the room. The stuff's still there. All of your memory is still there. And you can go back in there. You got to all the time. You got to go back in there and find something. But goddammit, if you're going to do this, you go into the room. And if you people got any ability at all, you understand this. I've talked about it another way before. You go in and you look for what you're looking for. And you know that there's danger over here in the corner. And what you're going to look for is like going in up to the attic, an old room, and you're going over to a trunk that you want to pull out something. You're trying to find your old yearbook to find a picture and a name right quick so that you can speak to this guy you just met and say, oh yeah, I remember you. And while you're going over there, you see out of the corner of your eye your old uniform from the Army. And you remember how you got discharged and how they cheated you all of your money, you know, and you didn't actually desert, and what a dirty deal it was. And all you got to do, you see it there, and all you got to do is turn around and look at it, and you're caught. You're going to be there wrestling with the United States Army, wrestling with justice. In other words, you know there's danger there in the attic. That is the room of memory. But now listen to me. What I've talked about that almost all of you have shown some recognition of, the ability, at least the struggle, to acquire the ability to continually look around. Being able to not look around is the same ability. Not all of you have heard this. I said I've mentioned it in a way before, but let me mention. You're driving on the freeway and you see cars piled up and you see lights flashing, police and ambulance, and everybody's slowing down, and you know that there is some accident. You may even get a glimpse, you have peripheral vision of a foot with a sheet laying, and you see people in front of you, their heads going out the door, and people throwing up looking, and yet everybody in line stops and looks. You are not a part of this if you look at that. Why would you look at that? But all of you should be aware, if all you got is ordinary intelligence, it is almost impossible. In fact, those of you that can hear around the corner at all, it is impossible. Because if you watch the other cars go up, if somebody doesn't look, it's people that cannot stand to look at that. It's not through some ability, it's not through the exercise of some control they got, it's people who literally cannot look at it, which is the same thing. They got no more control over it. But you have got the ability, if you belong in this. The first thing, you should all know this. There is literally a magnetic hole of this going on, and you driving past it, or walking down the street and think you catch a glimpse of something that may be hit or killed. It's almost impossible not to go. But you can not do it. And the ability not to look is the same ability as being able to look around. So to go back in memory, your memory, it begins to be rooms within rooms. That you've got to remember something. Your mother, somebody saying, your aunt so-and-so, your second aunt so-and-so is coming to town. Do you remember? And you go, no. She said, all right, do you remember your uncle? No, he wasn't your uncle. It was your father's Uncle Fred from Utah. And suddenly, because that guy cheated you out of money once, or something happened, and here it is, she's about to run you through your father's Uncle Fred to get you to remembering this aunt she wants to tell you something about. And so there you are in a room, and you're going to where you're going to look, that you're trying to follow this, and you're just talking to your mother, trying to carry on a conversation, and out of the corner of your eye, you see a wreck, you see a uniform, your father's Uncle Fred's name's brought up, and all you got to do is look at it, and it's, forget suffering, forget what permanent damage is going to be. I'm telling you that you don't belong in this. You are wasting energy. You're doing something worse I'm going to get to in a second. But you are wasting it. You're insulting me, yourself. You don't know what the hell you're doing to turn around and look at that. You do not have to look at it. I can't find any reason why I should even give the appearance of preaching about this. Just ask yourself what kind of intelligence it is that's being fed, what kind of consciousness it is that is feeding off looking at an accident. If I could that example. What? If you got an answer for that, you don't belong here. There is no answer to look down at an accident. You go, oh my. All it's going to do is cause a loss of energy in you. It is nothing creative, it is nothing positive. By the same token, it is the same thing. Why would you think? Why would you go into the room of memory and something draw your attention and you're aware of it? If I look over there, I'm going to suffer over this. Why would you do that? To what profit? To what avail? We got to turn the tape over. How much time we got until 20 minutes?
7 minutes before the cutoff.
What? What time is it?
It's 7:47.
And what time do we stop? 8:15? All right. you're going to find it's a natural occurrence, what I was trying to describe through that symbol, that you're going to have less and less reliance upon the past. Or if you want to look at it conversely, those of you that still got scales at home and want to weigh yourself and find out if you're losing weight, if you need some way to check, am I benefiting from this? Then if you can see how much of your intelligence, how much of your thought is dependent upon the past. That's all you got to do. The more it's dependent upon the past, the fatter you're getting. You're probably a slob. You're not going anywhere. But it begins to fall away to where there is less and less. And I could, using this picturization, which is not totally unfair or inaccurate in the real nonverbal world, I could say that the faster and the higher this moves, the more and more that you're almost dropping off your tail constantly. That what happened yesterday, maybe what happened 2 hours ago, maybe what happened 5 minutes ago, that you turned and did something, that's the end of it. It's still there if somebody's got to bring it up, but it is not an operational part of what you're doing right now. And it could, by all appearances, by other people, it could be around you, especially ordinary people. Forget that, especially even you people. You suffer from the same thing. That you can take it seriously. Wait a minute, well, so-and-so just happened. I was just there and I was a part of it. Yeah, that's right. You got almost no business dragging around. Now that I mentioned Janis Joplin, I just thought of another one, Ball and Chain. Another one of her philosophical gems. You got no business dragging around any ball and chain. You got no business having hardly any past. It's an operational part of your own intelligence. None. Now I've described enough that you see that I'm not saying that you should be suffering from some form of three-dimensional amnesia, because everybody constantly has to go back in that room. Happens faster than most people can even be aware of it. What seems to be memory to other people is just a part and parcel. It's inseparable from what they call consciousness. So you're constantly there, but you can go there for the specific reason you need to go there and not look around. Especially you do not look around at dead bodies in your memory, at wounded people, at debts owed to you, debts that you think you owe, uniforms, memorabilia, knickknacks, all that you get a glimpse, and you know that those lights are flashing up the highway there and all the cars are stopping, everybody's doing this rubberneck bit. They're not doing that because it's some flower show that they're doing on the side of the road. You know what's up there. You know that you're going to look and it's going to be, ugh. You can do the same thing with memory. You have to go in the room and you go for one specific reason. I'll look in the book, I'll find the yearbook, and I'll look up that year. Of course, all this will take this place. And I'll look up his name and his face. I know about what year it was. And I'll say, oh yeah, Al, I remember you, Al. How you doing, buddy? You can do it like that, but while you're there, all this other stuff, there are wrecks all around there. There's rotting memorabilia all in your memory. Why would you look? Why would you do anything not profitable? What I was going to spend the rest of this tape on, I was at first going to make it sort of an inside just to the groups and say that was in the public tape, but I think I'll go ahead and just use the group and you people as a specific example and expand the whole area so that you people riding by on horseback and other times and other places by tape, that if you have any real interest and need for this, maybe you'll hear something. It has to do, I keep bringing it up with some of you individually, some of you in small groups, and every now and then I bring it up on a larger scale, and so here's a larger scale again, that the operational buzz term to start with will be waste of time. But I want to show you, try and show you that what I call a waste of time is something far else, and I can't find any of you, not one of you, that has what I consider to be a reasonable understanding after all this length of time of what I mean by that. And it is dangerous, besides being disappointing. To someone attempting to do this, there is a serious form of action, which includes thinking of action, but a form of behavior that I've turned to you generally, and I refer to a waste of time. And I hint, and I threaten, I cajole, and not one of you has ever come close enough to satisfy me to get any glimpse of this, so I'm going to try and make it more glimpsable. In regards to this kind of activity, to this, whatever it is, if it's something I ask you to do, if it's you and I talking, as you by yourself engaged in something that, as far as you're concerned, is this inspired, that it is related to this, had it not been for you being involved with this and with me, whatever it is you're doing, whatever it is you're planning to do, whatever it is you're talking about, even to yourself, were it not for this, you would not be doing it. Now you understand that. Now I'm not questioning how far-fetched or how strange or obtuse it may be what you're thinking or planning, but if it were not for this, you would not be thinking it or attempting it. So that's what I'm talking about. There is a way in which people attempting to develop this kind of revolutionary intelligence to inflame the nervous system somewhere else. They're the kinds of activities that, if they are not done properly, if they are not done completely, it's not a waste of time, it's an insult to time. An insult. And since I've changed it from a waste of time to an insult of time, that's not all of it. Now I want to point out, I tried to lay a strong hint the other night. I was apparently talking about one thing, but I was throwing out some hints. And I thought maybe a few of you would get it, and I have been able to prove to my own satisfaction, even in the last week, that it didn't have do a bit of good, and that was, I was talking about time in another context. And I was pointing out that even though I had said that only man has a concept of time, that was not true, if you could see it in a more complex manner, that even animals in the 3D world, dogs, have a sense of time. But the sense of time is an intricate part of themselves. They do not have a sense that there is a time external to themselves running. They have no clock time. It is simply that their sense of time is their life. Ordinary people have this, but ordinary people have no awareness of it, nor is there any need to. But a real revolutionist has got to understand that there is a personal time going on. And that's what I'm talking about. When I tell you people not to waste my time, when I tell you not to waste your time, I'm not talking about you wasting clock time. Who cares? What difference does it make? Clock time, you wasted what? 30 years? 40 years? All of you's wasted 10 or 15 or 20. What does it matter? What does it matter? What do you think I keep saying that for, to any of you personally, or in small groups, or as all of you now collectively, for me to say that you should not waste your time? Underline should not. Underline it twice. Do you think that it's simply I'm saying, well, hey, don't waste my time telling me this shit, when it took you 30 seconds for you to tell me, and I say, don't waste my time with that. Did you really think that that's it? That I'm upset that you wasted 30 seconds of my precious time, 30 seconds of your precious time by telling me some piece of crap, by telling me some plan you had that is incomplete, telling me some plan that you will never complete, telling me some plan that is improperly formulated, that is too chauvinistic, that is too I-centered? Did you think I was really talking about thou shouldn't waste time? You should not insult time. But it is not clock time. It is not external time. There is a time that is in you that is personal. It is an inner time. It is a piece of life. It is the rhythm of life working. And not one of you have ever understood this. Now, I have been able to non-verbally bring about a kind of limited operations in regard to you wasting my time. That is, me requiring that you people write down questions on pieces of paper. And even every now and then, somebody will show up here and out of town and say, hey, this is some kind of psychological thing because this size paper, we can only write so much. And they keep us from rambling on and on and on. No, I can't say that's not true, but if you think that that's the basis on which I have to operate, I have to sit down and think out. It's not that that's not true, but at least I got to the point that I won't entertain those kind of verbal questions, because all I will get is going to be chauvinistic inquiries provincial questions or comments, and they are going to be by and large a waste of time. Not just a waste of time, though. Not just that I have to go da-da-da-da-da, da-da-da-da-da, and so da-da-da-da, would you answer this? And for me to say, God, what a waste of time. I wasted 20 seconds reading that. Yeah, Jesus, you waste 20 seconds, doing that. That's not it. It is serious, and none of you realize it. It's an insult if it's in regards to this. And an insult, I assume you suspect I mean much more than that, but there is no particular good word for it. But it's not a waste of time. It's an insult to time, but it's an insult not to clock time, not to external time. It's not wasting that. It's wasting you. It's insulting you. It's insulting me, and it's insulting this, and it is dangerous. I'm saying it is dangerous if you take this seriously. And you people, it especially pops up, that on a spasmodic continuing basis, here and you people out of town right now, apparently keep you involved, or threatening to keep you involved, especially out of town when I'm not there and we're running these meetings in your cities, that you've got to keep some sort of fresh supply of people coming in. There's got to be a certain number of people in those cities, or I'm not going to send out the tapes. I'm not going to fool with you. We've been all through that. And I'll periodically apparently demand more. I'll make a threat that if you don't increase your number, that I'm going to quit. I'm going to terminate our connection. I'm not going to send out tapes, and that's just the end of it. And then what do I get flooded by? I guess you would answer, great plans. No, I don't. I get flooded by insults. Insults. That's all I ever get. Now, we're not talking about, I'm not using me now as being a provincial chauvinistic reporter. I'm using me to represent your apparent interest and need for this. All we get are insults. That is, what do I get? I get up to my armpits in plans. I get talked to fucking death. Of course, you people, I get to talk on the tapes. In letters. And you'll go off on one plan, and I'll have to respond to the plan 400 different times. The same thing over and over and over. You know why? Because nothing is going on. It's an insult. You do not know what you're doing. Look at it this way. Have I ever wasted your time? I know quite well the times that you sit here at a meeting and you, for whatever reason, you think, well, tonight wasn't an outstanding night. Maybe you thought you didn't feel well. Maybe you thought the stars were all out of kilter. But have I ever wasted your time? Have I ever called you here and announced, well, we're going to have a meeting and we didn't have one? Did I ever announce, well, we're going to have a meeting and I showed up, but just as I opened the door I realized, well, for once, I don't know, I can't think of anything to say. The muses have abandoned me. I just realized I can't talk on Friday. I can't say anything on the holidays. But I personally have had a headache all day, and I'll be damned if I'm going to come in here and try and deal with you people. Have I ever wasted your time? The answer is no, not if you're involved with this. Have I wasted your time individually? No. And what have you done for me? Wasted my time. Forever and ever and ever. That is, I ask you to do something, and all I get is plans. Plans are a waste of time when action is needed. Plans are an insult if action is what is demanded. Talk is an insult if what is needed are deeds. And none of you realize this. Because in the city it doesn't matter. In the city, talk is action. Thinking of action is a form of action. Plans are accomplishments. Here they're not shit. In the city there's some success. There is no such thing as some success here. If I'd saved every plan that you people had ever made, and I said, why don't we do so-and-so? Why don't you try and do so-and-so to help me with this? To start spreading some of this out before I die. If I'd saved everything that people here and out of town had ever sent me, written me, made up packages of proposals, my God, I'd have to have a new memory room. Somebody'd have to build me a condo somewhere just to store the stuff. So there it is. And some of it, even I, having nothing better to do, I can sit down and read it and enjoy it. Like enjoying a good movie or a good play. Ballet. But Let us say I got this room full. I got these stacks and stacks of plans you people have given me. Proposals, ideas, suggestions. All right, we got all that there. And I tell you one more time, some of it was just delightful. Some of it professionally done. So we got all that. Now over here, see, there, all the proposals, the plans, the ideas. We got that. Now, what is it amounted to? Over here, we got what? It's not even an empty room. There's not even a damn room there. It's amounted to nothing except the continuing flow of suggestions. And if I really apparently start rattling the cage of all this, and out of town, or here, but I've been doing it more out of town recently, if I say something like, all right, you've got X number of days or months that you've got to do so-and-so, you've got to double your size up there of getting people there, you've got to have some kind of public access going on, television and print or something, or some of these ideas, or I'm going to stop it. I mean, that's just it. And I'm not going to revive it either. I'm going to cut it out. If I do that, what happens? There is a flood of mail from everybody. Plans. Plans, plans, plans. Great plans, wonderful plans, intriguing plans, interesting plans. And then what? Well, I can wait a few weeks, a few months and say, all right, some of those plans were good, but what the hell is going on? What do I get now? I get a new second-order update of the plans. That's it. You do not know the damage, not to me. Remember, I'm just using me. I said this, we're using this as an example. You do not know the damage that takes place in you regarding this. Regarding other stuff, I'll go ahead and say it doesn't matter. Once you realize that I'm telling you wrong, then you'll be able to handle that because it matters in everything. But right now it doesn't matter in everything. Right now the only thing that matters that even you don't recognize is anything in regards to this. When you waste time, can you try and just verbally now understand what I'm saying when I say waste time? That you are insulting real time, not clock time. You're insulting it. You're insulting life. You're insulting yourself. You're insulting this activity. You do it every time that you talk when you should be acting, when you plan, when you should be doing. And there is almost a double, I'm not trying to end up this tape to make you people feel bad, but there's almost a double insult, at least I'll take it as double. It's my grave disappointment that nobody recognizes this. What is it that you people do besides show up here and sometimes give some kind of recollection to some excursion? What is it that you do? You plan. If I crack the whip, if I make threats, people will plan. People will say they got ideas. What if that's all I had? What would we have been doing all this length of time? What if I wasted your time? What if all I did was have plans? What if it was just ideas? What if it was just thinking about action? Well, what I've told you about is action. What I've told you about are things that can be done. Can I make you do them? No. If I could, would I? No. But I can't. Plans made and not satisfactorily and completely fulfilled are dangerous insults, and you people are doing direct damage to yourself. Now, one reason I bring this up is some of you know there are little pockets of people in the other cities, and even here it's no big secret. There's no secret group inside the group here, but periodically I'll just pick out a group of people, or one or two people, and I'll say, collect up 8 or 10 people that you trust, and I want so-and-so to get started. It's always on the basis of trying to spread this out, to make the information more available. And I had about reached the point of late, here and out of town. I assume you people out of town understood the last messages I've been trying to send, or I hope you did, of telling you just forget it all. Just drop it. The people out of town, I left them to be doing little ads and just announcing that these tapes are being shown, but as far as driving them and saying that you've got to get out and make some concerted effort, I'd done that recently, and I told them all that, just never mind. And I don't say never mind to make people feel bad, and I don't say never mind to let you off the hook vis-a-vis my apparent demand, but to stop you from hurting yourself. Because you hurt yourself by bumbling around believing that you're doing something involved with this, and you're not. If you do not satisfactorily complete it, you have hurt yourself. And every time that you people, and I take responsibility up until this point, to tonight, every time I ask you to do something, and you go, yeah, we'll do it. We'll get right on it, Chief. Here's the plans. Here's our new book of proposals. And it just wanders off, just the way things do in the city. It just peters right out, and I finally say, oh, never mind, forget it. I don't always do it that way. Sometimes in the past, I have taken responsibility to where you thought I lost interest. But I went, well, I changed my mind. The last time I did it, to some of you, I just said, don't, forget it. Just drop it, because you're not going to accomplish anything. And I thought maybe that would make some of you go, well, and maybe see something. And I can't find any. There's no iota of evidence that any of you learned anything from that. But every time that you apparently put your hands on some activity, even if it's just planning, involved with this, and then only have some success, which is failure, you understand, it does you damage. You have almost cut out a little piece of your heart. It is bad. It is seriously bad. It is an ill. It is non-health. That every time you apparently fail, every time that you apparently do something, that you think you attempt to undertake something with this, and then you do not satisfactorily complete it, it has hurt you. And I'm responsible, ultimately, for asking you to do it. And that's why I've told people, in general, just drop it. Don't try to do shit. And I just point out that by all appearances, you're never going to be able to help me do this, or you're not going to help me do it. So just stop it. Just stop it. Just play around, come to Evotech, put on the plays. I enjoy that. Play the bands. We'll do the tapes. I'll send them out. But as far as you people ever doing anything, apparently it's not going to happen as far as helping me in this. And so I told you to stop it. But what I want you to do is to see that there is a reason for this. It's not a contest, and it's not me beating you over the head to try and bruise you and to show, oh, boy, you're weak, or you can't do anything. You have got to see that there's some things in life that you should not undertake without completing them. And this is it. It's the same kind of thing, if you don't understand it, me saying that all of you, just in the beginning, doesn't seem to be a big problem, but for one example, I told you, just don't talk about me. And we even play away, around sometimes and go for years or months, and nobody calls my name. I call myself Captain TikTok or Timex, and I just told you, don't even think about me, just forget about it. Because every time that you think about something, you're putting your hands on it. And you should not be handling this kind of activity. And of course, to most of you, I'm inseparable from this. You should not be handling me. You shouldn't be thinking about me. Now, it'll happen, but it's like walking in a room. You can go back there and something stirs up, and you go back there to look for the trunk, and you see a photograph of me on the wall, or you think you see me over there standing behind a clothing dummy. You don't have to look. Because every time you look, every time you think about somebody, you put your hands on them, and you're doing damage. You can do damage by yourself, in silence. You should never, inside your own head, let's say you got a dog, and you are a good dog lover. Surely you know this, and it's not religious, it's not being humble, it's not being spiritual. But shame on you. I'm talking about serious. You're hurting yourself. To ever tell your dog, just in your own head, and say, shut up, you little bastard. Or to think to your mother, she's on the phone, you're smiling. Hello, Mom, hello. Won't you shut up, you bitch? That goes on in people's heads. That's noise in the attic. That's a wreck on the side of the highway. But for you to do it, for you to turn around and look at that, is to do something incomplete. It is to take it to an unsatisfactory conclusion, and you got no business doing that. Now, some of you can probably hear that. Some of you probably suspect, well, yeah, that's true. I shouldn't do that. That's the same thing I'm talking about. For you to apparently undertake any kind of activity in regards to this, even if I ask you, if I say, all right, I won't, before I die, damn it, let's have some more fun with this, let's make it more profitable. You got enough information here. We got 6,000 pages worth of transcripts. We got these tapes. I have covered everything from politics to economics, and I can even go into more details. I can pull out more examples, but you've got enough that, as I was saying, I can safely predict that shortly after I die, within hours, days, by the time the party is over, people out there are going to be going, hey, I thought something funny was going on. All right, what do you leave? Not only that, but you people are going to be worried about, all right, do we all get to make copies of all the tapes? Especially all the nights I missed, I never go back and catch up on the tapes back in. But now, boy, I want to catch up. You are insulting yourself. You are hurting yourself. You're believing that you're doing something and you're not doing shit. Don't waste my time. Don't waste your time. And it's not the clock time. You are killing yourself. You are killing your involvement with this. Only got 1 minute, so I can tell you one more time, I did not use this time tonight in some way for an attack. But I don't attack you. Attacking you is a waste of time. And I've never wasted your time. Never. So there was a purpose to this. A real purpose. A positive purpose, which is the only purpose. If it's not a positive purpose, it's a what? It's a waste of New York time. I'll catch you later.